Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us. We really value the time you give us to these webinars. Today's webinar is about NavFleet and the developments that are happening around NavFleet. I'll go over and just show you a quick look at our agenda for the day. So moving across, I'm going to introduce some new people today, which is really good. I'm going to introduce Terje, who's going to bring in a welcome message. We'll then move across to Jacob, who is the performance director and also the managing director of Denmark, and Lynette, who is the NavTour customer success manager. And then we're going to flow on to the question and answer session. The Q&A session is hopefully where everyone gets the most value from our presentations and our webinar, where the questions can flow and we can hopefully answer the topics that are hot. So first of all, let me introduce the system we're using. We're using a system called 23. 23 is a webinar hosting system. If you look on your screen, you'll see at the top right-hand corner, there's a chat function, but there's also a question function. Please feel free to use questions at any time during the presentation and the webinar. We'll collate those and we'll save them through to the Q&A session when we'll run them in sequence and display them on screen so everyone can see what's going on and what's being asked. So my name is Richard Northover. I'm the MD of NavTour UK. Just to let you know what the aim of what these webinars are. Our aim is to spread knowledge. It's about making sure that everyone is getting the most out of NavTour. So let's move swiftly on and show you where we go from here. So I'm now going to introduce you to Terje, who's going to talk about NavTour, our developments, and give you a welcome message to this webinar. So over to you, Terje.
Hi everyone, nice to see you. Thanks for joining today's webinar about the emission, CII updates and improvements in our recent NavFleet 1.8 release. We really appreciate it. NavFleet is an important product for NavTour, where we add a lot of resources to help our customers to manage some of their obstacles. As you know, NavTour vision has always been to help our customers to become more efficient, to reduce workload, enhance decision making, stay compliant, and to become more competitive in your market. This is exactly what NavFleet with the new Emission Simulator is doing. Here in NavTour, we have a great belief in NavFleet and its important role when it comes to emission, CII, and compliance. It's a pleasure to hand over to Richard and later to Jacob and Lynette, who will tell you what NavTour can assist you with regarding meeting the regulations, realizing financial incentives. I wish you a beneficial webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terje. So I'm going to include again a slide that I've used many times during our webinars, but it's the crux of everything we do at NavTour. We call it now the NavTour Suite, but it is really our ecosystem. Effectively, what we're showing here is how data flows and how it is transmitted through our system. The key to everything we do is the one piece of hardware we put on board a vessel, the nav box. So data flows from our cloud out to the nav box, and then it's distributed on board vessel through to the Ectis, where updates are passed, but also to backup bridge. And you can see on the slide we are showing here NavStation, which is our backup bridge solution. It's a layered decision support system. And you can now see we're showing nav reporting and digital logbooks on board. That data flows back through the nav box and is harmonized with the cloud ashore. And then the data is distributed in real time, or as close to real time as is absolutely possible, through to the systems which are shore-based, so for voyage and vessel managers. So this now includes our NavFleet platform. It includes all systems we've had for a long time, such as NavTracker, but it also includes NavTV. So our ecosystem is all-encompassing, everything linked and in real time. So knowing that, I'll pass across now to include Jacob and Lynette, who will go through what this webinar is actually about. So over to you, Jacob and Lynette.
Thank you very much, Richard. I'll just go through what we're going to showcase and demonstrate in this webinar. So I'll take the introduction and listing up what we're going to tell you, and then Lynette is following going to give you a demonstration within the platform of these features. So for this NavFleet release 1.8, we have added a number of new features and also a number of improvements based on the customer feedback that we have received during the year and leading up to this. So the main focus is on what is one of the new features is our Emission Simulator, which is found within our Emission and CII. We also have within the Emission and CII a number of updates and improvements made, listed here below. So it relates to export options for better sharing to internal and external stakeholders. It provides vessel comparison modes, emission details, custom data range selector, and various other changes and improvements. We've also added in our map function some speed segmentations along the track, and also notifications for bad weather ahead. So using the tracking function, the route functions, and our weather forecast data to give you a warning from on shore side in advance of any bad weather faced by the vessels in the fleet. So I'll give a short introduction, jumping a little bit more into the Emission Simulator for a start. So the new Emission Simulator is aimed at assisting the users to meet regulations, obviously, and also realize financial incentives bound up to some of these target settings for emission reductions. So as probably most in the audience onto this webinar would know, is that MEPC 76, we adopted some new regulations for reducing CO2. So that includes the CII measures, and that was also revised in MEPC 78 in June 2022. And of course, the challenge here is that everyone would like to have their vessels meeting the C rating within CII. And the other challenge here is that we would need to adhere to the 2% emission reduction, making the target more difficult to reach every year. In addition to that, there's also requirements to set up a plan in the SEMP Part 3 to outline what is the required CI for the year, but also have a plan for how the vessels should be able to achieve that rating. So this is some of the problems that we are going to try to solve for the customer, being able to meet those requirements. The other part is that there are a number of financial incentives, which is described in the Poseidon principles, which is based on 4 principles of assessment of the climate alignment, accountability, enforcement, and transparency. And of course, we already do a lot to help to provide, you say, disclosure of emissions, pushing that to verifiers and feeding that onto the financial institutions. So we have customers already using Poseidon principles, and we also see marine insurers also rolling out Poseidon principles within their organizations and customers. The challenge here is, of course, to align your fleet portfolio along the decarbonization trajectory. You need to have some tools in order to end up where you would like to end up, and realizing those incentives in terms of better interest rates and better terms in your insurance policies. And the challenge here, so what is it that we are going to impact with this? So the CI is given as a rating from A to E, And if we look at the Poseidon principles, it's used the annual efficiency ratio, AER. And apart from the capacity, what it goes into this is mainly CO2 and the distance. But there's a number of dynamic factors going into the emissions and the distance, and they vary greatly with the operating profile, with the vessel's performance when they're in service, and also with the fuel type. So the mix of fuels, and also the percent of, say, alternative fuels or biofuels. So what we are aiming at is to provide a tools that can simulate all the different variations that you may see. So that goes with the average speed, the time sailing or time idling periods, the loading conditions, so how much are you spending in laden, intermediate, or ballast, and also the weather impact based on the geographical deploy of the vessels and how that changes over time. The other part is the vessel's performance, so how is the vessel specific speed consumption, how is that modeled, what happens when the Holland propeller gets fouled, or the main engine or engines on board change efficiency, or their performance is changing over time, or how they're utilized. And the same goes for your auxiliary machinery, so your generators, boilers, etc. So we're trying to assist the users being able to model all of these all together, both for individual vessels, for the segments, and for the fleet. So here we give you the handle to try out a lot of different strategies and evaluate those outcomes, and be able to steer the fleet decarbonization trajectories according to your target setting. The other part that we are going to solve, that I would like to give a bit of background, is about our new notifications for bad weather ahead that can support the shore managers in taking timely actions to safeguard the vessels and its crew. So on board, we have a nav station where the crew can activate a passage plan. So we can have that passage plan or route file fetched up in our ecosystem. So we fetch that from the nav box on board onto our nav cloud, where we also fetch global weather forecast data. So along that planned route or passage plan, we every 6 hours we update the weather forecast, and we can then give you warnings as the vessels progress along the route, and give you warnings in advance. So up to 72 hours in advance, but this can be set based on the user requirements. And that can then create notifications to the user, both within the app. Can also create immediate emails, so it can create daily email digests for the fleet. So that can give you heads up that soon one of the vessels in the fleet, and which specific ones would meet bad weather within the next, say, 72 hours, if that's the desired. And then you can take proper measures on board to meet that weather ahead. So with that intro to the new features, I'll hand it over to Lynette to give you a more thorough demonstration on the NavFleet platform.
Thank you. I think I'm already maybe sharing my screen. I don't. So thanks, Jacob. And Jacob started with kind of going through more in depth on the emission and CII. I would, however, like to go back to where Richard started, showing you the ecosystem of NavFleet, because right now we are looking at the dashboard of the onshore solution that we have called NavFleet. So when Richard was showing you the ecosystem on board, this is reflecting a lot of these sources that are found on board. So this dashboard is populated with information from the IIS on board, It's populated with information from the passage plan, from reported information, and also from weather from a third party, WNI. And being on board, that would be a NavBox being the spine of this system, feeding this system seamlessly with information. So some of these boxes where you see kind of my high-level overview of my fleet, navigational status, speed status, etc. It's from, of course, from the IAS. And then I have, for example, schedule ahead, which of course comes from the passage plan or an activated route. And then I have reported information feeding my CII status. So coming in more to the bad weather ahead, these would be found as notifications. And as Jacob said, they are user specific. When I'm setting the notifications for each of these parameters, let's say, for example, on route deviation. So here we see that I have vessels on track and no route, but a route deviation would also contain outside XTD or off track, and these would also be set as notification. But as Jacob said, now we also have bad weather ahead, and it would come to your email something like this. So this would be a bad weather forecast within period, and this is how it would look, and it's 6 hours. So as Jacob mentioned, it's up to 72 hours. However, this notifications is set to 6 hours. This is have been my preference. This has been sent to my mail account. I can also auto forward this one to Teams, so it can be a message in Teams as well if I want a notification rather in that one. So that's my dashboard. On the left side menu, this menu would differ depending on what subscription I have. So NavFleet does also contain reported data from the vessel, either or both from the Nav reporting system, a Noon reporting system, or from digital logbooks, and from digital logbooks on board. So what we will look at today is information coming from the Nav reporting system. So our Noon reporting system on board, which feeds into the module that we call Emissions and CII. So I know some of you here are known to this dashboard. This gives you a high level on fleet view. So this is my entire fleet. And I can also see very clearly the CII rating, the current CII rating. In this view, you also have a comparison in between the CII and the EOI, and it's also kind of a reference to the Poseidon principles, as Jacob mentioned. And then coming to what we were talking to in the what's new in 1.8. So first of all, coming into each of the individual vessels. So the vessels that was showing in my overview, in my CII overview, this is the breakdown between the vessels. So these are my vessels in my portal. Going into one of these vessels, I get the information as per vessel. Here I can toggle a little bit with my activities, the emissions, the conditions, etc. And whatever is selected here, I can choose my preference and I can get an extract. The extract will look something like this, depending on, of course, your selection. So here I've chosen CII, CO2, and no conditions there. And then you have activity breakdown, and you have all the individual parameters for this vessel specifically. So that's new in 1.8, that you can now do exports. And then coming back to dashboard, go into Emission Simulator, which also is the big thing in this update or in this release. So here there already are some created scenarios. All the scenarios that you are creating can be saved, and you can name them accordingly. If you have kind of a scenario that you are running in multiple varieties, So for example, if you want to see your fleet, now these scenarios that I've done now is containing one vessel. As you can see, I can do all of my vessels if I want. If I have 6 of my vessels, they are sister vessels, and I want to kind of take them all in once, I can do this to have a fleet overview of my CII. But here I name them time at sea 60%, time at sea 50%, and 55%. So at 60%, they would actually improve. So in 2026, I would be having an A-rated vessel, whereas for continuing at 50, I would remain at target CII. So I would remain at a C. And then I can go in and create a new scenario, which is really straightforward. So here, as I said, you can choose one vessel, or you can choose several. It is listed according to vessel segment. Choose 2 of them. I click next, and I choose my the operational period that it looks back to is reflecting the 12 last months. So my operational pattern, the last 12 months, is kind of the benchmark or the threshold that I'm seeing here. And from what I know about my future, I can change this one. So let's say I have a fleet. They all have an E right now. I know that maybe I need to lower my speed. The idling period have to go down. So let's increase sailing time. I will sail in somewhat better weather because I will keep to the south of the equator, for example, etc., etc. And then after setting my and there, just to change something, I click next, and then I have my scenario results showing that this vessel lowering the speed will improve my CII going forward. And it also takes in consideration the reduction factors here. So it will improve. So, and then you have some details about the CII rating or about my emissions simulation. And also I have my prediction parameters if I need to have a look at what I actually changed. Can choose to either export this result or again save the scenario. I save this one, and then I have my scenario saved, and I can go back and look at these. And these are, of course, when I said that you are looking back at the operational pattern 12 months back. So these are kind of a snapshot in time. So this one is valid from the parameters that I set right now. So if I need to run a similar scenario, I would do it the same in 6 months and see if we're still kind of on track on this scenario. So those were kind of the bigger updates with the exports that you can do now in PDF formats, deciding yourself what is to be put on the PDF, and also this emission simulator, which is of course the big thing with this release. So if it's not something else, Jacob, you want me to show you or show you everyone, then I done from my side.
Excellent. Then I'll just take a short recap of what we just learned and the key takeaways from this. So recapping what was just demonstrated and what we can learn from this webinar. So with NavFleet's new advanced emission simulator tool, we can help owners and operators in evaluating the different strategies for aligning the vessels and the fleet's CR rating, and also alignment with Poseidon principles. The new emissions comparison and emission details dashboard can help our users with comparing vessels' emissions, as well as gaining insight to understanding the vessel's CR rating and their specific emissions. There's added export functions for better data sharing, both with internal as well as external stakeholders. We have the speed profile colorization, so we can see the executed track and providing immediate insights to the vessel's executed speed profile. And then for the notifications for bad weather ahead, for the along the planned route or approved passage plan, we can support the shore management in taking timely measures for ensuring safety of the vessels and its crew. So with that, I would like to jump to the Q&A, so we can hear what questions that have popped up along with this demonstration just provided.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Jacob and Lynette there going through and NavFleet talking about what's changed and what's updated in NavFleet. Just to wrap up a little bit, I noticed questions coming in. Thank you very much for passing the questions in. We'll be getting to those very, very shortly. One thing I would like to note is, again, in the top right-hand corner, you'll note that there is a handout for today's presentation, and that is the NavFleet PDF. So that's available should anyone want to take further information. So let's follow up exactly with what Jacob has discussed there. What are we seeing today? Well, what's been demonstrated by both Jacob and now Lynette is the new Emission Simulator. It's quite different. It's quite a step forward for us, showing the segmentation of colors. That's also been done, but really focusing on the bad weather ahead notifications. So those are the key points as Jacob's just gone through for the takeaways for today. So please keep your questions rolling in, and we'll get to those in just a few minutes. So now, without further ado, let's move across to the Q&A session, where I'll invite back Lynette and Jacob, who will be contributors and discussing through the questions we've got. So I will go and step across now to the questions I can see, and we'll have to detail with the producer of today's webinar. So I'll take them in order if I can, and I've learned before that the order starts at the bottom. So let's start with the first question, which is from Paul. Is NavFleet only for shore-based users? Well, thank you very much for the question, and thank you to everyone who's passed questions in. No, it's not, but I think for the detail, it'd be useful to talk to either Lynette or to Jacob and see who would like to take this answer.
Yeah, I can take it. I mean, if we jump back to the introduction about our the ecosystem side of things, so going forward we're aiming at having two main platforms, which is the nav station. So the overall reaching product on board would be the nav station that would contain digital logs, books, you could say navigation planning station, and also noon reporting platforms and so forth, and we will keep adding to that platform. For the shore side, we aim at having that as the NavFleet. So it's basically, you could say, all connected up, but NavFleet is kind of the brand for, say, the shore users. So it's kind of aimed at that, and we aim at delivering insights also to say on the crew side, but that's delivered, say, under the nav station, say, main brand as a product. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jacob. And thank you for the question, Paul. That's a good question. Going forward, I've got a question from Mehmet. First question here is, what is the bad weather definition and can we customize it? That is a great question. Would either of you like to take this one? Lynette,
I also shared my screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
So here you see, yes, it's absolutely customizable. So the bad weather definition is according to kind of your set preferences. In the reporting form is in a more extensive reporting. You can also upload the whole charter part information. So there you would also have, of course, the definition. But yes, in NavFleet, as you see, I'm still in the same portal. I have gone through my settings, and I've chosen the vessel which is in question, and I set my my bad weather definition. And here you can also see the bad weather forecast period which have been discussed. And here I can set up to 72 hours, and I can save my settings. And yeah, so I think that answered that one. Yes, you can customize it, and the bad weather definitions are there are default values set, but they are easily changed the first time you log in.
Thank you, Lynette. That's a very good answer, and thank you very much for the question. Same questioner, and thank you, Mehmet. This is really good questioning. I've got now, what about route deviation alert? As per the passage planning, is it possible to receive immediate alert if the vessel is deviated from its route, and if it's customizable? Yes, if it's customizable. Well, I can answer absolutely. We'll go for a detailed answer through to the contributors, but that is one of the key cornerstones for what we have here. It's about using both the route and also the active passage plan. Lynette, Jacob, would you like to take a further answer on this one?
No, I think just the whole reasoning behind NavFleet is to be a tool for situational awareness, and I think this like feeds into this one. So the route deviation alert is, of course, as Jacob also mentioned during his presentation, these alerts come either immediately or as a summary at the end of day. So these ones follow either passage plan, as I said, or even an uploaded route via RTZ format or whatever, but it needs a route to kind of have something to deviate from. But yes.
Thank you, Lynette. That's a great answer, and it's a cornerstone to what NavFleet is there for. So thank you for the question, Mehmet, or questions, Mehmet. Next question from Romel. What is the accuracy between CII projected and actual? Is there a basic comparison between projected CII and real-time CII, considering the conditions do not change? Well, this is a great question, and thank you very much for it. I'm not even going to pretend I can answer this one immediately. I'll pass across straight to the expert. So, Jacob, Lynette, who'd like to take this one?
Yeah, I can take this one. I think it's a really good question because, of course, there are so many dynamics in what can change over time. Just the weather condition of the vessel and how it's, you could say, executing on the voyage and what's influencing its operation in general. So I think we have a pretty good, you could say, estimation tool for, you could say, predicting at least, say, to the near term, because we automatically say adjust our modeling to, you could say, how the vessels perform here now. But of course, we cannot necessarily foresee what's going to happen in 6 months' time. If you're going to do a complete slowdown, of course, then it would be difficult to forecast unless you can actually upfront say that how the operating profile will be sometime into the future. But I think for the near-term future, we are pretty accurate to predict what is going to happen, say, for the next 2-3 months. And then the idea is, of course, that you can, on an ongoing basis, monthly, quarterly, and so on, keep evaluating, and it will pull in the year-to-date data on an ongoing basis. So you can constantly gauge if you're on track, and also adjust your strategies accordingly if you see suddenly that the market picks up in a given segment and the fleets are say increasing speed, then you may need to do something. Otherwise, you end up in a bad situation where it's the rating is going off. But I think for the projection itself, in terms of modeling, say, emissions, we believe that we have a fair accuracy to provide, and I think it should definitely be less than 10%, I would say, deviation.
Thank you, Jacob. That was a great answer. I forgot to mention that questions can be posted within the chat as well as the question section. So thank you, everyone. I will pick up one of the questions that's come in from the chat zone, which I won't be able to display on the screen, but I'll read it through. So from Sven, I've got, does the route passage plan need to be activated, approved to collect all emissions data? So great question, and thank you very much for posting this one. Lynette, Jacob, who would like to take the answer on this one?
Yeah, I can take it. So the passage plan really feeds in a lot of the information, and taking kind of another question in the same it goes for underwater safety information from the passage plan utilized in the NavFleet platform, but the emission data is coming from a noon reporting system. So the noon reporting system is what is feeding the module called Emissions and CII. So there would be absolutely the need for activating a route or a passage plan in order to have this situational awareness in terms of route deviation, or even in the future, maybe with these everything in regards to underkeel clearance and safety in water, etc. Because all this information is of course picked up from the passage plan, and there is a lot of data that can be collected. However, emission data is not these parameters picked up from this one, but we need the reporting system to feed into that one. So there are two different things.
Thank you very much, Lynette. I'm afraid excuses here. The webinar seems to be lagging very slightly, but please bear with us. We'll try and put some money in the meter and make sure the electricity is flowing properly. So I think we've answered the next question, but I'll just read it anyway. It's again from Ramel, and thank you very much, Ramel, for this. In NavFleet, how do we monitor the underwater safety of the vessel? So that was kind of touched on in the last section, but I mean, does anyone want to add anything to that question?
Yeah, I can maybe just add a few comments. I mean, the idea is that the detailed planning of say a safe voyage is done in the passage planning on board, and not say relayed or relying on the individual users. And we basically take that passage planning and utilize it in NavFleet. So, and then we monitor against it. So when we receive a passage plan, at least coming from a nav station on board, we know that it's safe, and then we can monitor that the execution. So that's the kind of the means for ensuring that the platform can give you insights to say you have a safe fleet, and from the fleet dashboard and also from notifications, you can get immediate overview and also notifications if, say, a vessel in the fleet is deviating from that, say, safe passage plan. So that is kind of the answer to say, how do we ensure that that you could say as a fleet manager know that all of your vessels are navigating on a safe route, so that we can actually monitor live.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jacob. I note a question from Vignesh, which I won't go through now because it is quite detailed, but I will call in for one of our other colleagues to join us in the Q&A for that question. We'll call back in Terje to maybe assist us with the question. It talks about the development of NavTor in general. So it's a good involved question. So we'll bring Terje back for that one. So we'll go on and move on to another question from Ramel here. Is the mobile phone app based pop-up alerts, and are they available if the vessel deviates from the route without the operator opening NavFleet from the laptop or desktop? Again, another great question, and it relates to the recently launched iOS and Android application, which is NavStation. So perhaps we can talk this one through. It links us again to digital logbooks, and this is the linkage through products. I don't know whether anyone wants to take this one and see how that links in, or maybe that's a future development we can talk about.
Yeah, it's absolutely kind of coming more into the future, or both really, because what you can do today is, as I said, you can have this immediate alerts or notifications forwarded from this immediate notification, I should say, forwarded from an Outlook account, for example, into Teams, which is available as an app. So if you would have a channel specifically for this one, and you set your notifications to alert you whenever you get a notification in that Teams channel, they would be immediate. But other than, there's no app for NavFleet, and that goes for kind of the onshore version of the monitoring system.
Thank you, Lynette. I presume the question relates to the new NavStation app that's just been released, which is initially for digital logbooks, but there will be tie-ins and flow between. So I think that's what it's talking about. But thank you very much for the question, Ramel. That's very good. Another one from Ramel here is, can we generate IMO DCS reports from NavFleet? Since all data is being entered, apart from cargo-related data, can cargo-related data also be incorporated in the NavFleet? So another great question, and thank you for this one. So I'll pass that one through. Jacob, Lynette, who would like to take that one?
Yeah, I can take it. I mean, we do cover that already, so we automatically populate IMO DCS, EU MRV, UK MRV reports that can be downloaded directly from NavFleet on the fly. So you can do that at any given time. We do operate with different reporting forms. So we have one for emission and what we call emission and compliance, the subscription, which is giving access to the emission and CI module in NavFleet. And that is a kind of a reduced reporting scheme that is, you could say, as light as possible, but covering everything that you need for emission compliance. We also have some more comprehensive one if you want to have more look into the performance analysis in detail, hull performance, engine performance, and so on. But we do keep a standard scheme for just say covering the basics. So that is offered today. We do also provide optional service for feeding that data to the verifier, for example, to DNV as per today. But we will also include other verifiers. Currently planning for Class NK to include those as well. So it means that we, instead of downloading reports, you can of course look at the data in our platform on the fly at any given time. But what we do is then we can feed it directly to the verifier, and that they further on submit to say GSIS and to the EU portal for submission of your official reporting records. So that's completely, you could say, streamlining both the data collection, the rectification. So we have a data validation team that looks at rectifying these errors before it goes to the verifier. So that really simplifies the whole workflow for our customers.
Thank you very much, Jacob. That was a great question asked and a very good answer. Thank you so much for the questions you're sending in. I've got the next one is from Renish. And this is a really interesting one. There have been frequent cases of detention of vessels in Indonesian, Malaysian waters for legal anchoring. Most of the cases are due to a lack of clarity in the baseline of territorial waters. Is there a provision for an alert when the vessel and shore can be alerted when the vessel is entering such waters to reduce the risk and set factor? So thank you for the question. Really, really good questions, really detailed and good questions. Lynette or Jacob, who would like to take this one?
I can comment on it. I mean, it is something we're looking into. I don't think it's currently supported in the way that it's described here, but it is something we frequently have requests about, that to have say customers areas and have specific notifications tailored to specific say customer requirements. So it could be, this is one case, but we also have cases where entering a piracy zone, entering an endangered area, or other type of special areas that companies would like to get notified about. So we are going to deliver that. I think that would come in near future. So it is something on the roadmap, I'm sure.
And I think just to add to that one, the logic is already present in the platform. We do already monitor and notifying when you are entering, exiting ECA and HRA. So there is already, the logic is there. As Jacob said, in upcoming release, we will have the customizable layers. So it will be available. This is something that we understand is a request not only from one company, but from several.
Yeah, so we are working on it.
Yes.
Thank you both. Good answers, and thank you so much for the question. One more from Mehmet here, which is upcoming EU ETS regulation will be added to the system. So
I think Jacob has a slide on this one.
Yeah, we will have a release very late December, so we will have a webinar start January with special emphasis on EU ETS. It will also cover other features, brand new features. But we are working on it, and the release will be coming before end of year, and we will have a more thorough webinar demonstration earlier January next year.
Thank you, Jacob. As you can all see, this is a rapidly developing area and product for NavTor, It's very exciting time. So thank you for the question and thank you for the answer. I'd like to ask the producer whether we can include Terje back into the panel chat. Thank you very much. So this one is a bit of a curveball, but it's worth talking about. It's a question. Given the current merger with Voyager, is there anything to look out for? Well, there's loads to look out for, of course, in terms of customer services and NavFleet. So it's quite specific, homing down. So Terje, did you want to just make a comment on the current situation, the merger? The announcement to Marketplace was a couple of weeks ago now, but whether it has any specific relations to customer services and NavFleet.
Yes, I can answer that. The brief answer is no, there is nothing to be afraid for, but I can try to explain a bit more. As you know, NavTor has always been very customer driven. Part of that has been measuring for over 10 years now the customer feedback that has been exceptionally high and that we are very proud of. And that is one of the goals we of course want to maintain during this merger, to keep that high satisfaction for our customers. That is very important for us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm just quickly looking through, so that's great to hear a bit about the future. And as Terje absolutely right says, there's nothing to be afraid of. We are about development, and it's all about customer services and developing more for our customers. So thank you very much for the question. I'm looking in chat to see, and I don't see any further questions in the chat. So let me just check the questions. We're up to date with all questions. So this is the bit where we find, for us, is most useful, and we hope, and we're told that this is where you, the viewer, finds most useful, where we're actually directly answering the questions that are a topic at the moment. So I will take on, and we'll move on now. Now we've covered all the questions, just to say thank you very much. Really, it's our pleasure to be able to run these webinars. We are going to launch very soon, as Jacob was discussing, and the next webinar in the NavFleet series. There is another one also coming down the line to do with NavStation. So there's a lot of developments coming and a lot of webinars coming about the future developments. So please stay tuned. Thank you everyone for contributing, but thank you so much for the questions that you, the viewers, have put in. And we'll stand by. Should any further come in, what we'll do is we'll answer directly those questions if they come in later. We'll also make sure that contact is made between your local account manager and those with questions, just to make sure that we've covered those correctly and fully to your satisfaction. So thank you very much for your time. We really do value your joining us in these NavTour webinars. And it just leaves me to say, we'll see you very soon on the next, which will be webinar number 16 in our series. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.